How you doing?
Yeah, hi. Okay, just a couple more minutes. Hi everyone, so I'm just gonna wait until like 5:05 or so, just because whenever I share my screen, it's kind of difficult to go back and accept people into the meeting. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and begin. Okay, so my Girl Scout Gold Award project is setting up signs around Tom Sawyer Park to spread knowledge about biodiversity and the environment and what people can do to protect it. So it's an issue that's really important to me, specifically the protection of ecosystems and biodiversity. So this project has been really big for me, and now that I'm in the last leg, I would like to, spread a little more knowledge about it through this presentation. So So let's begin with what an ecosystem is. So an ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. So it includes all living things like birds, trees, flowers, fungi, you and me, but also includes non-living things such as sunlight, rocks, and soil. So what makes an ecosystem healthy? So there's a lot of factors that make an ecosystem healthy. For example, the amount of organic matter in the soil, how resilient an ecosystem is. That's a good metric for how healthy an ecosystem is how stable the ecosystem is in the face of environmental factors and biodiversity. So biodiversity quite literally means biological diversity or biological variety. So the term interrogates how much variety of species is within the ecosystem, as well as how much variety there is within each species, otherwise known as genetic variety. So in Tom Sawyer Park, there's a lot of wonderful amount of biodiversity, which keeps the ecosystems healthy. There's a fitness trail, which is probably the most frequented. If you've been to Tom Sawyer Park, it's the one with the gravel that spans the entirety of the park. It's manicured and lined with many species of trees. And then towards the back of the park, there's the Goose Creek Trail, which has even more species of plants and trees, and really an area where nature is kind of free to do its thing. So let's get to an important question. Why and how does biodiversity keep ecosystem healthy? So studies show that you can't have a sustainable and productive ecosystem without maintaining biodiversity in the landscape. So the first reason is because species in the ecosystem depend on each other for food, keeping birth and death rates in a balance that is sustainable for the ecosystem. And if there's a great number and variety of species, the disappearance of one species for whatever reason will not have as much of an effect as on the ecosystem as a whole, as if it was if the ecosystem as the extinct species played a critical role that is offered a function upon which other species relied exclusively. So if there's a lot of species, there's a lot of sources of food, there's a lot of sources of there's a lot of predator and prey, which keeps the food web going. And the more species there are, the more resilient an ecosystem can be. So humankind, like all species, is tied to the large and small of this planet. So our health, our economics, and our lives depend on healthy ecosystems, and by extension, biodiversity. So we depend on healthy soil, a variety and abundance of food sources, and the regulation of climate change and waste, as well as, of course, the beauty of nature. So there's a lot of factors that can threaten biodiversity, and in this presentation and in my project, I focus on two. So one of them, throughout the park and other woodlands of Louisville, there's species known as invasive species that pose a threat to native ecosystems. So they're called invasive because they spread aggressively and can dominate an area if not controlled, and they can leave little nutrients and space for a lot of the native plants and animals in the area. So invasive can reduce plant diversity because they cause the native species to die out, and they therefore threaten wildlife and the ecosystems in which they inhabit. So invasive species can come from anywhere outside of a native ecosystem and are spread primarily through human activity. And the seeds of these plants are brought to new environments in several different ways, such as the wind, birds, and being picked up by humans. So using the little hand raise function on Zoom, raise your hand if you've ever seen any of these in Louisville. Yes, I'm seeing a few. So these are the invasive species that can be found in Tom Sawyer Park and Kentucky. So they're the autumn olive, the Chinese silvergrass, the Japanese stiltgrass, kudzu vine, bush honeysuckle, and the garlic mustard. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of these all over Kentucky. All of these pictures, actually, other than the kudzu, these pictures were taken within the park. And I'm sure if you've ever driven on I think Interstate 64, you've seen kudzu before. It's like this really smothering vine, I think it's kind of the epitome of what an invasive species is. But even the ones that are kind of unseeming, such as the bush honeysuckle, are actually invasive because they're so aggressive. So these do in fact threaten native ecosystems, and Tom Sawyer Park and other parks across Kentucky are making an effort to sort of make sure that these species don't take over native ecosystems. And of course, the other factor is pollution, because it severely harms ecosystems and biodiversity. It steals habitats, kills fungi and algae, and feigns as food for vulnerable animals. So what can you do as, a citizen who just wants to help? So first, you can let nature be, admiring the beautiful flowers and the greenery of parks and of nature, without picking and taking the plants elsewhere. As I mentioned in the invasive species slides, a lot of what happens is humans will take certain species from one part of the world and take it to another part of the world. And that's why often, in customs, they don't let you take certain plants or certain fruits, because that's often what happens. And of course, don't litter. There's a lot of groups that help pick up litter around Kentucky and Louisville. And additionally, recycling is really, really helpful. It doesn't always seem helpful, but personally, I've done some research on the effectiveness of recycling, and honestly, it is rising because there's more effort and money being put into recycling. So do put effort where you can for recycling. And to help biodiversity, you can just plant native flowers to attract pollinators and take care of native trees, because that is really, really helpful in maintaining these incredible ecosystems. And Tom Sawyer has also made efforts to revive biodiversity. So let me show you how. So these two aerial images show the evolution of the land and the park and the surrounding areas between the 1950s, when the area was used as farmland, and 2019. So the shapes help to compare the landscapes. So again, using the raise hand thing, do tell me if you can spot any differences or similarities in how the land is used. Actually, you can just unmute and say anything that you spot. Just any differences between how the land was used in 1950 and how it's used now.
Well, in the blue one, there's a building now, whereas in the 50s, there weren't. It was just land. But
yeah, lots more trees in the 50s, a lot more commerce and just structures in the now picture.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like in the orange triangle, like in the 50s, it was more industrialized, like kind of like buildings, but then they've created a park around like in a walkway kind of. It seems more, I guess, conservation based now.
Yeah, and those are definitely all correct. In the 50s picture, you can kind of see that in some parts there are more trees, and then those parts have become like neighborhoods and industrial places. But you can, in the 2019 picture, you can sort of see the outline of the park and what the park has done to sort of restore that biodiversity. And so in the 1970s, that's when the park system took over the land to conserve nature and create sort of a recreational space, which is why you see the structure in the blue square and the different fields and parts that are like trails and whatnot. So as an effort to revitalize the biodiversity that was lost through farming, the Tom Sawyer Park Foundation replanted hundreds of trees around the park's land, which is why you see this really dense area of trees in the 2019 picture. So many oak and maple and sycamore and dogwood trees were all planted around the park's fitness trails, the athletic fields, and the picnic areas. And today, the park continues to try to return the land to its native habitat, all while blending these urban recreational opportunities into the landscape. So this is an example of how biodiversity, even if lost, can be revived. And this is also something that I probably couldn't show you through an in-person tour. So kudos to the internet for having these pictures to show you all. So yeah, that is the entirety of this presentation. Do you have any questions? Do you guys have any questions? Also, if there's any questions that I can't answer, I will write them down and send them to the Tom Sawyer Park staff, because they will probably know the answer more than I will.
Are your signs already in place, or when will they be placed?
This week. So Fast Signs has them in processing currently, and I'll basically just pick it up that day and bring it to the park and then put them up immediately. So I'm really excited about that.
Can you share pictures when you've done it?
Yeah. And I can actually share pictures of the signs right now if you'd like.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, I think that would be beneficial. Thanks.
Yeah. So can you guys see this?
No, I still just see the thing that says questions.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, me as well. Us as well.
Okay. I'm gonna stop share and then try to, yeah, there we go. So it should show now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those look great.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
really good.
So I designed and wrote all the information in these slides, which are going to turn to these pretty large signs. They're like 2 foot by 3 foot signs that are going to be around Tom Sawyer Park. So they're going to be replacing old signs that aren't really decipherable now. And it's going to be new information about biodiversity and invasive plants and the park landscape. So, yeah,
Oh, these look wonderful.
thank you.
Yes, it looks really good.
Thank you.
Well, be sure and let us know when they're up so we can go look at them.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I'm really, really glad to have you all come and see this presentation, as well as the work that I've done over the past few months, because it really does mean a lot to me. And if you all don't mind, I have a quick little survey to put as like impact evidence as in my Gold Award report. So I'm just going to link that in the chat real quick. Really, really quick survey. And here it is. So whenever you guys have it open in your browser, you can go ahead and log off of the Zoom. I have nothing else, but if you would like to email me a question, I'll put my email in the chat. But other than that, thank you guys so much for coming and participating in this presentation.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Take care and good luck.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Aditi, that was wonderful. I'm
Thank you.
really, really impressed. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, those signs are like amazing. You did a really good job.
Thank you so much.
They really do look great.
Yeah, I'll definitely send out the date that the signs are going to be put up. I'm gonna call the Fast Signs place and make sure that I'm gonna get them in the next few days.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay,
All right.
that's great. And and then you're ready to submit, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, woohoo. Yay. Okay. Well, all right. Well, I'm gonna log off and finish the survey.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. All
Talk to you later. Okay, bye.
right. Bye, everyone.